not really getting any further. Okay, so watch this. So we press rough terrain mode. It is just pulling us over that. Very impressive. Now, time to hit the sine waves. It's actually not too bad. That feels like they've sorted that out with this suspension tune. G'day, I'm Paul. Isuzu, they've rolled out a beefier version of the D-Max. It is called the Blade, developed right here in Australia, and I'm excited to have a drive of it. It looks very tough. So today we're going to do a detailed review of this. We're going to do some light off-road driving as well. How much does this cost? Well, it's going to cost you about $6,000 above and beyond the LSU Plus, which it's based on. So it comes in at just under $77,000 drive away, a big old chunk of money. So we'll see whether it is actually worth it. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you got time codes on the screen there, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. What are the changes? Well, there's been a significant amount of changes, and it's actually been developed right here at the proving ground that we use in Lang Lang. So Walkinshaw has done all the work to this, and I think they've come up with what is a pretty comprehensive package for someone that wants to go off-road and know that the vehicle is going to be capable of it. So beneath the skin there, you've got steel underbody protection, you've got recovery points on either side, light bar built into this lower section of the grille, big blacked out grille there as well. You've got these stripes, which I could take or leave, but I do like the red color. It really stands out nicely. Off to the side, you've got these flared wheel arches and these enormous tyres. So these are an LT tyre, light truck tyres. So 17 inches in size, 275 wide. So they actually increase the track width of the vehicle, which should give it better stability on the road. Twin tube dampers all round and revised coil springs at the front. Got this black alloy wheel design, which looks fantastic. And then it also has a bit of a lift as well. So the lift is giving it additional ground clearance. Nothing sort of too crazy, but it means that if you are going off-road, you've got just a little bit more clearance to play with there, and it won't affect the handling too much, because the more clearance you try and get under the skin there, the worse the handling becomes. So you've got to find that good compromise between the two, and I'll be curious to see how these tyres go on the road, because they are very chunky all-terrains. You've got these rock sliders on the side, more of that stripe work that runs down the side of the vehicle. You've got this sports bar that's added in as well, and same story at the back here, so big tyres and just give it a little bit more track width to work with. 4x4 on the side, and then come around to the back with me. You've got Blade on there, plus some more stripe work as well. Retains its 3.5 ton towing capacity as well. And they've done all of the durability testing they need to ensure that this package works. It's one of the things people forget. You can go to an aftermarket 4x4 accessory place and fit this sort of stuff to your car, but a lot of it won't have been tested to the degree that these guys have tested this, and it means that if you are going to head out and do stuff, you A, probably won't be covered by warranty if something goes wrong, and B, you just don't know whether it is going to survive a pretty decent trip to the outback or somewhere fairly rough, whereas this, by all accounts, should, because it has been tested for it. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. What do you think about the pricing? What do you think about the design? Would you get this, or would you get something else? Let me know down there. Righto, so we're inside the D-Max Blade. We've already done a detailed review on the updated D-Max. So if you do want to check that out, there is a link in the description below. I'm just going to go through the highlights here, and then we'll focus mainly on the Blade stuff and the driving. So this is based on the LSU Plus. It's not based on the top spec. So it just means that you're not getting a couple of the little features, but for the most part, it has pretty much everything in here. The changes you'll see are Blade insignia there on the headrests. It just gives you a bit of a connection to what's going on outside, and then unique build number here with Blade just beneath the gear stick. Outside of that, Isuzu updated the infotainment system, which is a welcome change. It brought with it knobs, which were missing from the last one, a speedier infotainment system with some off-road display there as well that we'll have a little play with when we do our light off-road driving. Outside of that, you've got a digital display ahead of the driver, dual zone climate control, and the basics like your USB connectivity, but no wireless phone charging, which is, I don't know, in this day and age, you've got to have that stuff. I just feel like all of this is starting to feel a little bit dated. So hopefully they are working on the next generation of this to kind of bring it in line with some of the cool interiors we're seeing from the Chinese brands. In terms of the second row, you've got decent amounts of room there for a pair of adults. It's not overly cramped, not overly spacious, but that is the dual cab ute game in general. You do have a little bit of storage beneath the seats, center armrest, you've got USB connectivity, and also air vents as well, just stay nice and cool. So overall, these things are built for lifestyle. So you've got all of those little elements ticked, and the changes they've made to the outside should really complement this in terms of the way that it performs. So let's go for a spin and see how it goes. Okay, so we've just hit the road in the Blade. Outside of the suspension changes, the rest of this is pretty much the same. So under the bonnet, you've got a 3-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder diesel, makes 140 kilowatts of power and 450 Newton meters of torque. So it is at the lower end of the scale when it comes to the dual cab utes in this segment. And it's not going to be helped by the fact that this weighs an extra 100 or so kilos more than a standard D-Max. So sort of sink the boot in. It's okay, but leisurely. So, you know, by the time you put some load on, or if you're towing, you are going to feel that it is a little sluggish compared to a standard D-Max. That is the cost of fitting all these accessories. It is mated to a 6-speed automatic. The gearbox can be a little lazy at times, so when you do want to get on it, you've got to wait and wait and wait, and then it finally does stuff. So that is probably something they could improve the tune of. If you have a look at something like the Tasman, they have a fairly aggressive gearbox tune that hunts a lot, but takes advantage of the transmission to make it feel sportier than it is. And I think Isuzu needs to employ just a little bit of that. In terms of fuel economy, Isuzu claims a combined average of 8 litres per 100. We're sitting closer to 9, so it's about right. Nothing sort of too crazy. If you're going to be doing more city driving, this will consume more fuel. More highway driving, it's going to consume less, but they are pretty sort of respectable figures for a 4-cylinder diesel. Now, time to hit the sine waves. This is where we're going to see how much the suspension changes have improved body control, which is one of the things they said they worked on. So do this at 130 over the sine waves to see what the ride is like. It's actually not too bad. That feels much more subdued compared to a standard D-Max. Standard D-Max, the body control isn't great, and it feels very floaty and sort of moves around quite a lot. Doesn't feel confidence inspiring, so it feels like they've sorted that out with this suspension tune. The ride just in general, look, it feels about the same as a normal D-Max. It's a little bit more forgiving. What I find with these dual cab utes with leaf springs is they tend to take a little bit of extra weight on board to settle, and this feels like it is more settled, and a lot of the tuning work has gone into making this feel comfortable behind the wheel, and it does feel fairly comfortable. It still is sort of a little sort of bouncy at times, which is what you get with a dual cab ute regardless, when it doesn't have any mass in it, but it doesn't feel adversely affected by all of the changes they've made to the whole body. Okay, bouncy road time. We do this at 90 k's an hour to see what the ride is like across this shocker of a road and whether the body stays compliant. We've got a condensed sine wave here as well. So it feels pretty decent. It's sort of holding a nice line through here. Let's see what it's like on the sine wave here. Yeah, look, it's good. It's actually fairly comfortable for a dual cab ute. Alrighty, now, even though this is a dual cab ute, we do a limit handling test with all of the cars here to test them back to back and see what they're like. Especially here with a change in suspension and tyres, I'm curious to see how it affects the handling. So we'll do a lap of our ride and handling track and just see what the vibe is. You know, you're actually getting a decent amount of traction here through the tyres. It's not great in the wet. In the wet, they really do struggle because they don't have a huge amount of traction. Very similar to the KO3 and the KO2 and the Raptor. It just has very little traction in the wet, and it's a fairly poor tyre choice for regular road driving. Great for off-road, but for on-road driving in the wet, not great. This is the same sort of thing, so you're going to have to just be a little more ginger when you're driving in the wet. But here in the dry, it's actually hoofing along really nicely, and the suspension changes haven't affected the way that it actually performs. So means that you're going to potentially be getting benefits off-road without having to compromise with on-road driving. So yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised with the way this has all come together. I thought it would genuinely be not very good with this tyre choice, but yeah, it's getting along really nicely. A little sluggish, but not much you can do about that. Now, in terms of road noise, you are going to notice noise coming into the cabin. These are not only wider tyres, but it is a light truck tyre. They are sort of resonating a fair bit of sound into the cabin. You're going to notice that mainly on coarse chip surfaces. It's not sort of totally crazy. It's not like it's a mud terrain that really sort of echoes everything into the cabin, but you do notice it a little more than you would on a highway terrain tyre. We put it up against our calibrated sound meter, and this is how it went. Now, in terms of visibility, you can see clearly down the front there, nice big wing mirrors and good visibility out the back. Okay, time to do a little bit of performance testing. I'm curious to see A, how much slower it is with the extra weight, but B, how long it takes to stop compared to the standard car, because that is a penalty cost you're going to have with this equipment. So we're going to go all the way through to 120 k's an hour. I'll turn off traction control and see how we go. All right. Okay, so 60, 80, 100. Come on. And 120. Should mention as well, it's been sort of raining on and off today, so we're about to do our break from 100 as well. Might try and do one in the wet too, just so we can get a good comparison there. So 0 to 100, 10.77 seconds, and 80 to 120, 8.7 seconds. So the numbers are okay. I'll just have a look at how that compared to our last D-Max. So in terms of 0 to 100, it's about half a second or so slower. And for the 80 to 120, it is about a second or so slower. So yeah, you are paying the cost of having all of that extra weight, and it will then just become slower the more people you have inside and the more you're towing, etc. So just something worth keeping in mind. Let's do a stop from 100. See what the brake and tyre package is like. As the GoPro goes flying. Alrighty, let's have a look. So that is 100 to 0 in 3.43 seconds, 43.77 meters. So, you know, not an amazing stopping distance just in the dry. Let's just see how that compares to the last D-Max we tested. Okay, so it's an extra distance of about 3 meters in the dry, which is a fair bit. So it looks like it's going to rain soon, so I'm going to try do the braking stop again in the wet, and if I can do that, we'll overlay the numbers here as well, just so you've got them. Okie dokie. How quick does it go in reverse? Let's find out. All right, 47 kilometers an hour. Okay, let's do a little bit of light off-roading. I'll just quickly run you through the pertinent specs here. So we've got wading depth of 800 mil. The ground clearance has increased by 4 mil, so just over 240 mil now. You've got two-wheel drive high range for driving on sealed surfaces, four-wheel drive high range for driving off-road, so it's going to split torque between the front and the rear axle 50-50. And then you've got low range, which is a torque multiplier, again, four-wheel drive. We've got a rear diff lock that now works with the rough terrain mode, so we're going to try go through our offset mogul first in two-wheel drive. We discovered with the D-Max that rough terrain mode basically transforms this completely. So having these chunky all-terrains is going to help the cause as well. And then during the intro, I mentioned that you've got underbody protection at the front there too. So if you're going to do some proper off-roading, you can give that a little nudge and not be too concerned about it all. Okay, so we're kicking off in two-wheel drive, traction control on with our offset mogul. I'm going to kick a rear wheel up just so we can see how well the traction control system works, whether it's degraded at all with this new suspension and tyre combo. So I'm just going to roll into that. So you can feel traction control biting there, but we're sort of not really getting any further. Okay, so watch this. So we press rough terrain mode and then roll onto the throttle again. And look at that. It is just pulling us over that. Very impressive. So you can see Isuzu's worked hard to make sure that, you know, a basic push of a button can transform the way this behaves. Because I remember when we first pointed this out in the updated D-Max that it couldn't do the very basics in two-wheel drive mode with traction control on. I was like, what the hell? So they've clearly developed a system here that simplifies that process entirely. So we're going to go back over now in four-wheel drive high range. And I'll just leave the rear diff unlocked at this stage. We'll reserve that for our hill. So four-wheel drive high range does a torque split between the front and the rear axles. So it's engaged now. I've left rough terrain mode on. I'll switch that off and just see whether there's any difference there for us. Okay, so we just want to rest it there. So we're just unloading the front left and the rear right. Roll onto the throttle. So you can feel it sort of, you can see traction control flashing there. There are no drive modes to speak of outside of the rough terrain mode. So I'm going to flick that on now, roll back onto that. You can hear the traction control biting to sort that out, and there you go, just pushes it straight over. So yeah, makes a world of difference just having a button there that will stop the traction control being silly. Okay, it is hill time. So we do this twice. Once I sort of roll up it with constant throttle, and then see if it gets up there, and then I'll come back and do it again, but come to a stop just to see if it has hill hold. So I'm gonna pop this in low range. So you got to slip it into neutral, let low range engage. So you can see here, rough terrain mode works in low range. So I'm gonna try without the rear diff locked. This has been compacted, unfortunately, but there are a couple of holes there that should make it tricky for the vehicle to get up. So constant throttle, it's fallen into that first hole. I can feel traction control biting there to sort that out. So now we've got cross axle. Oh, nice. That rough terrain mode, it genuinely has transformed the way this vehicle operates. Like, didn't even have to lock the rear diff there, and it is quite sort of muddy and mushy down there. So yeah, that is impressive. Right, we've got our mud bath here. Whoa. Touch down there with the tow bar. Now there is no 360 camera, so unfortunately can't see over this crest. So I'll just engage hill descent control. We'll come to a stop at the top and roll out of the brake. Catch the walkie-talkie. Yeah, there we go. So it goes down pretty constant speed. Nothing too crazy, which is good. Righto, we're going to do the hill again. This time I'm going to lock the rear diff just to say that we've done it. And I'm going to come to a stop just to see if this has a hill hold. So we'll see how that goes. Just bring it up to here somewhere. All right, nice. Got a hold function. Roll onto the throttle. Yeah, it's even easier with the rear diff locked. Very good. Okay, time to drive over the rocks. Let's see how it goes here. So a bit of extra clearance. It should walk over this without any dramas. We'll see how comfortable it is as well. Yeah, it feels good. The sidewalls on these light truck tyres just give you that little bit of impact protection when you're doing this type of driving. Yeah, nice. And somebody asked as well what pressures we run for this off-roading. It's just standard pressures. If you're going to be doing off-roading, you're going to want to drop your tyre pressures, but we just leave them all at the standard pressures for this kind of stuff because it is just light off-roading, and we do it back-to-back with the on-road driving, so it just makes life a little easier. All right, so big tick there for rocks. Let's go through our little river. We haven't been through this for a while. It's been filled up again, not a huge amount, but enough to keep us busy. So we'll line it up and give it a shot. Alrighty. Okay, here we go. So what depth are we at? Oh, that's cute. About 450. So this isn't going to be very deep at all. So this car will do 800. So yeah, really isn't too crazy, but it just gives you an idea of what it looks like going through the water, which is nice. All right, we've got our climb out of here as well. Let's see if the back end touches down. No, very good. Look at that. Piece of cake. Very nice. All right, so Isuzu D-Max Blade. What do we reckon? What we did before, and unfortunately didn't get any footage of it, but I did record it on the Draggy. The stopping distance in the wet is appalling. It's almost 60 meters, which I think is just, it really is pushing it for, you know, what could be a family vehicle. If you are buying one of these, you really need to have a think about wet weather driving and leaving a much bigger stopping margin to pull up, because the tires just are not really all that suitable for driving in the wet. Outside of that though, I think they've done cosmetically a great job on this. I think it looks fantastic. The ride and handling work is great. Off-road, it's great. So it really does tick all of those boxes. It just does what it says on the box, which is what you need. It is a lot of money for a car that is starting to feel a little dated now. So while they've got all this stuff, it does miss out on features like constant four-wheel drive, which a lot of the other competitors now have. You know, the bigger infotainment screen, the digital display ahead of the driver that spans that entire area. You know, I think there's a lot of cars coming to the market now that have a lot of these features that Isuzu probably needs to have a look at. So let me know what you reckon. Have you bought one of these? What has it been like? What's it like in the wet? Let me know in the comments section below. If you did enjoy the video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. But until next time, take it easy.